I'm Atalanta, and this is Soul Connection. Soul Connection is a series dedicated to teaching you how to tap into and connect to your soul on a deeper level. We will be exploring spirit versus soul, mass meditation, chakra energy, vibration, and connecting to all. We will learn how to tap into our soul and figure out what our purpose is on this earth in this lifetime.
We're here on Soul Connection, and we have Prism with us. We're going to be talking about chakras and how to use your chakras to connect to your
Hi,
soul.
everyone. I'm Prism, and this is a little bit different than what I'm used to talking about. I've been studying this for many years. Very few and far between have I shared this with because it can be such intense work. Um, so the chakra system we all know is energy centers, right? But there's so much more to it than that. And what I want to start with is a little bit of a song that I've been singing to the Devi for a long time. And when I'm talking about the Devi, I'm talking about Kali, but also, excuse me, also her other forms. So you'll hear me say Kali, you'll hear me say Devi, you'll hear me say Shakti, and then you'll hear me say Mahavidya. So I'm just going to tap us in. Kali Ma, Devi Ma, Shakti Ma, Mahavidya. Kali Ma, Devi Ma, Shakti Ma, Mahavidya. Kali Ma, Devi Ma, Shakti Ma, Mahavidya.
Your voice
All
always makes me emotional,
right. Thank you.
which is a good thing.
Um,
It's very soothing too. It's like you get all these floods of emotions, and then it's soothing. So this is the first part of a two-part episode that we're going to be doing because the chakras are so intense. So in the first episode, we're going to do the lower and the middle. And then in our next episode that's coming up, we're going to discuss the upper. So can you kind of explain just, real quick what the lower and the middle mostly pertain to?
Sure. So we're the lower chakras we're going to be talking about, of course, is going to be your root and your sacral. This is like self-preservation. Is your root. So this is our early stages. So this is where we're going to grow our roots, but this is also where we're going to kind of uproot ourselves, so to speak, because we're going to be looking at a lot of liberation and getting rid of certain habits, the way we talk to our body, the way we treat ourselves, what we put in our body, but also looking at a lot of this is where we do a lot of trauma work. And then, so as we move through them, we're looking at that self preservation, that survival, and then more of learning about how to respect ourselves intimately. And then our solar plexus is a place of power. This is a place where we pull in our inner sunshine. This is a place that, if it comes out of balance, then most of the time this can be somebody who's overly aggressive about their ambition. So if it's overactive, that's what that will look like. Versus if you're using that beautiful inner sun to motivate and power yourself up, that's where that's going to be. And your heart isn't, I don't really call this middle. So I would say the three are your lower because you're kind of moving through those. Our heart is what connects the lower and the higher.
The
So
center,
it is
which is why
dead
you do
on.
this.
That's it. And the chakra system, we're starting at the root, right? And the root represents our need for survival. And in early childhood, if you had a hard home that you grew up in, if you look at the chakra system, it is very much like growing up. So let me run through them real quick. The first is like your early life. This is where we're looking for survival. So instability can make it where you're either overproduced in that, like you have no boundaries, or it can make it where you're so shut down, you just have giant walls. So when you move into that next piece, we look at intimacy, and this is our sacral, this is our womb space. This is where we learn about intimacy. As children, that intimacy would have came from our loved ones. But if intimacy was ill-conceived or given to us in a different way, this is another place where this can cause this to shut down. This is especially true for women and feminine beings. The reason that is because this creation space becomes clamped down or it becomes overexerted and we don't know how to connect to it. And as we move up, this is kind of like we move into our solar plexus, and this is where our willpower comes from. It's also where our inner child energy lives. It's this place of like freedom. It's very much bright as the sun, extremely luminous. And these are our lower ones. And as we move up and we move into our heart space, this is the piece that connects our lower chakras and our higher chakras. So our heart space is kind of common sense, right? This is a place of not only self love and community love, but I also like to say this is the heart of the consciousness. This is where our soul connection to all that is lives in our energy system. And then we go up here, and this is our throat chakra. And in our throat, it isn't just about using our voice. It's also learning when to be silent. It's also our place of creation in a higher way. So what I mean by that is creation in our sacral is more, this is a lot of exertion we get, like creating life and creating relationships and creating art. This is where we begin to really deeply create with spirit. This is that higher place, and it connects us to our third eye. And this is where we open up into our intuition and things of that nature. And then of course our crown, which is all expansive. It's what is the all is.
Why
Now
are the chakras important to be able to connect to your soul? Why is that important? What benefit do you have by doing that?
Think about it like this. Here's an analogy for you. Think of yourself like a vehicle, and you have all these parts, and each part needs to work for that vehicle to run, right? So when the chakra system, when the wheels aren't moving, the system's not working. It can be, I can think of another answer to that. Try it out. You'll find out for yourself. I promise you. You can do a little bit of work in a very short amount of time. You really can, especially with the chakra, because it's like speeding up your system. These things exist in us already. And if you look at them as the chakra, beautiful. But if you're just looking at them as your actual organs, think about what happens if these things stop working.
It's like your organs of your spirit.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
This is our place of survival. This is our place of self-preservation. This is the energy of Kali. This is her. It is very rapid when you work with it. It is very grounding, but it can be destabilizing as well. So if you're somebody who really likes to work with sound, I would highly suggest finding some mantras. If you want something a little more gentle, you would work with the god Ganesha. So Ganesha is another one for the root chakra system. The other thing that's really neat about Ganesha is if you work with Ganesha when working with any of the gods in the Hindu pantheon and you repay your respect to him first, your work is always going to be of higher energy because he is the remover of obstacles. So that is a really good thing to keep in mind when you're working with a very strong gods and goddesses like Kali, like Shiva. These are very current like energies. If you're energy sensitive and you tend to want something a little more gentle, I would definitely say move with Ganesha. Absolutely. So you can work with the chakra system just on sound, and that's why I think that it's so important. So if you're wanting to work with the root and you're just kind of wanting to just start your grounding process, you can just you sit with your feet on the floor. You want to be real nice and grounded, palms up, palms down, however you're comfortable. You want to kind of clench your lower body, and then when you breathe in, you're going to let out the sound. And it'll continue to get deeper. And I would say do this like 3 to 4 times, just kind of let and see. And the way that you work with it best is don't time yourself and don't struggle. Let it take its natural process. So if you're somebody who has a shorter breath and your isn't that long, that's fine. There's no wrong or right way to do it when you're doing it with vibration, with sound. The other way to do this is if you're more of the physical nature, putting your feet in the ground, that is, earthing is no joke. It is unbelievable, especially for the root chakra. So here's kind of the interesting part of this. Trauma lives in those base chakras. We can sometimes get stuck in the throat. Absolutely. The heart can get heavy, but trauma kind of lives in the lower two, especially for women or especially for people who have sexual trauma, childhood trauma. What it does is it kind of binds on top of each other. So there's nowhere for it to go. So what that means is this can lead to many different ailments. This can cause a lot of compulsive eating, compulsive behaviors, compulsive sexual behaviors. And the way to really get these moving, if you're just beginning, sound is perfect for that.
Right. Okay.
And if you're a visual person, another thing you can do for your entire chakra system is picture a flower and just kind of picture it opening and closing. This is another really helpful thing to do when you're working with the chakra system, because that's what it is. Like, you're allowing this light to emanate from your lotus. You can use and say that that's like your base chakra, right? And it's opening up and it's moving through this beautiful system. Because I could sit here and give you all the official names. I could be like Muladhara, Vashuddhi. You're going to find that if you look into the studies. What's really important is that we talk about the simplicity of using these because they are beneficial to every person. They're so simple in the ways that once you begin to work with them and they begin to kind of become your own practice, they take on a life of their own. You don't have to live. It's what's great about being magic, like practicing magic, right? Being a witch. You don't have to live by anyone else's system, but never forget that part of the craft is always respect of the elements, respect of where these practices came from. That's something that I like to reiterate and continue to say. Just make sure you remember that we are honoring a different path here, right? So honor is very important to our energetic systems. And it's very important to the elements because this is earth energy, right? This is that strong earth energy. And that's another way we can work with the chakra system. If you're just trying to give yourself a gentle reminder, I need to work with my root more. I need to work with my sacral more. Wear that color. If you don't want to wear that color clothes, pop on a bracelet that's that color, or a ring that you might love, or even a simple scarf or something you can carry in your bag. It doesn't matter what it is. There's all these beautiful reminders because that's another great thing and simplified thing about the chakra system is you can use it by color. You can, so if you're working on your root and your sacral, you can be like, oh, a nice simple orange and orange and red blend would be really good today. So you can also use stones. Anything in the root chakra is going to be your grounding stones, your obsidian, your tourmaline, but also things like, and this is both for the root and the sacral, things like red jasper, really good. Carnelian's really good for that. So there's so many different ways to work with this system. So as we're looking at the sacral, this is that place, especially for women, where a lot of trauma lives. Okay. Um, and I don't mean to say that as to be gender specific, but especially people that have had the cycle as they're growing up. And let's say you had abuse before you started that cycle or right after, this can cause a lot of confliction energetically. And sexual abuse, period, is going to cause damage to that area. But each person's going to take it on differently. Where some are going to shut their fire down, others are going to give it, it's going to lead to all kinds of different behaviors around boundaries. A lot of the same cycle of relationships or the same, I don't like my body. I hate the way I look. And, society teaches us that anyway in westernized culture. Like, you have to be this size to be beautiful, and you need to look like this person and have these things. So that also can be another way where it can feel like shame in that center. Self-preservation is a good word for the root to the sacral, where self actualization is something we do as we get a little bit higher into the journey. But this is one of the first places it begins to awaken. Because if you think about being a teenager or think about being a young adult and you meet somebody that you think is attractive and you really like this person. Well, not only are you like, I like them, but your passion for them is being awakened. And you're like, ooh, this feels good. And that's what we need to remind ourselves of. Like, let it feel good. It doesn't have to be brought on by another person. This is a beautiful way to remind yourself that your cauldron, your sacred cauldron is that. It's sacred and it's beautiful. And it deserves to be respected and honored and even a little spoiled at times. So, all the chakras are, but laying that groundwork, those few in our base are going to be the most important for what we're building towards. So if you respect your root and your sacral and you know yourself in that way and you've worked on your power center and now you're moving into the heart where you're actually thinking about getting into a relationship with a person, or you're actually thinking about trying to be more open and loving about life and new people and things like that. If you have a foundation, guess what? It's not going to be as hard to do that. It's not going to be as painful to do that because you trust yourself. And that moves us into the third one, the solar plex. So the solar plexus, this is our power center. And if you see it, I actually have a little yellow candle going today. And this is that reminder that this is where my sunlight lives. This is my inner sun, right? And there's so many great ways to explain about the solar plexus. But let's remember, the main thing is this is our base is connecting us to our heart. So to use the power and the energy from your solar plexus and move it into your heart space and work these two together, it is incredibly powerful after a breakup when you're going through grief. This is a really good space to work with if you've just lost someone you love. Maybe you lost a job. Maybe you're living in a new place where you feel like you've kind of been knocked off balance. Solar plexus is great for that. So really beautiful color for this is not just that bright yellow, but like that orangish yellow color. If you kind of work the two together, this can be as simple as just watching the sun come up in the morning, or because sometimes the sky looks like it's on fire. And to pull that color into our solar plexus, a great way to work with the solar plexus is to do whatever makes you feel confident. How do you pull in that space within yourself that makes you feel like this is something I know I'm good at? And it does not matter what that is. It does not have to be something you even share with people. Just something that makes you feel confident, in control of yourself, not like controlling yourself, but how I don't need anybody else to motivate this next move. I don't need anybody to help me because I know this is something I'm good
Right.
at.
And
And
when
it
you
doesn't
do
matter.
something that you're good at, I mean, I've noticed when I do something that I'm good at, oh my gosh, my energy goes crazy. It's like better than caffeine, better than sugar. I mean, your energy just goes out there, and then all of a sudden, that's why I think, how people that procrastinate, they'll just, oh, I don't want to do this. Oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. But it seems like once they get started and they see that they're good at it, you notice if they're not good at it, they're going to be like, they make excuses, they get distracted. But if they are good at it and they see they're good at it, it's like boom, 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 boom. And then they want to do more. And that's probably why, because you're
Absolutely.
waking that up.
Which brings us to the heart space, the anahata. So I love saying this one. I guess I should have given you the official names for all of them. But the reason I like saying it is because when I think of this and I hear that sound, that was the game changer for me. I could hear heart over and over and over, and it was not registering to me because my heart had been broken so many times and I'd been through so much, so many things. But the first time I heard the mantra of Anahata, it was like something was awakened in my heart space because I always heard that if you had an issue with your heart chakra, you were closed off to people. You had issues trusting people. Well, I wasn't that. I was just the opposite. I had to learn to stop trusting people all the time. Trust is earned was my mantra for like 3 years. Trust is earned, trust is earned, trust is earned.
When I tell
And I had
people,
to
I'm like,
say,
you don't understand. And a lot of people don't understand this. I'm like, I love hard. I love very hard. And I don't think that people are out there to take advantage of me. I think that everybody works on the same, thinking process that I do. And I'm not saying I'm perfect by anyway. Actually, that's so not perfect. But but I don't ever think about, I just honestly don't think about people wanting to break somebody's heart, being hurtful. It just, I can't fathom it. And so I'm a lot like you in that sense, and I've accepted, and you want to make everybody happy. And when you're with somebody who has got damage and has trauma and they're mistreating you, you forgive them because your heart is big and you want to move on and help them with that. But it's, not taking care of yourself.
yeah. And that's so much what that piece is
Right.
about. And the heart is a space to remind you not only to be strong, because we hear that so much in society, and there is nothing wrong with being the badass warrior that you are. There is also nothing wrong with you saying, I don't want to be a warrior today. I want to cuddle up in my bed. I want to grab a blankie and a stuffy, and I
So
want to binge watch some TV show I like, and I want to be left the hell alone.
check
That
out.
is just as great of self-care as
Mhm.
any other. Now, don't do it day after day after day, but if you feel full, there is nothing wrong with, it's about meeting yourself where you're at. It's about really being honest with how you feel. And the more we hold back because there's other people around or because what other people might think, all that stuff, that's what kind of causes the spokes of the wheel to be like, yeah, I'm not really going to move as much today.
Mhm.
Be your wonderfully weird self, whatever that looks like. The other thing is simplify. If stuff's too complicated, just because somebody said that's the way you're supposed to do it, screw them. You're not. You're supposed to do it the way that sings to your spirit, to
Thank
your
you so much for explaining the bottom chakras. And how would you like to close out? What would you like to tell everyone?
This is a place to get to know yourself. This is the place to heal, to meet yourself where you're at. Um, this is a place of deep exploration into your physical body and also into how you connect with others, what intimacy looks like to you. And also, how do you drive through this world? What does your solar plex, where do you feel your confidence, your courage, your inner lion? That's where those live. And in the heart space, this is a place of love. Be your own Venus. Be your own Venus. It's not about validation, it's about acceptance. It's about seeing your full self.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on. And like I said, this is the first part of a two-part episode about the chakras. And Prism will be back with us in 2 weeks. Blessed be.
Blessed be.